think it's pretty obvious, but I'll say it anyway. Most companies suck. They don't care about their customers, they don't care about their employees, and they only really are focused on making as much money as possible. When you are a part of a company and you make a really bad product, you can't go and blame that company for not giving you enough time or resources when they gave you hundreds of millions of dollars or a decade to make your game, and that is exactly what a former Dragon Age writer is doing. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, it is unfortunate that you sign a contract and you work at a company that you don't feel is the most healthy environment possible. I understand that. I'm not saying that working at every single gaming company is a treasure and they're all super amazing, but you can't go and complain that companies were rushing you and that you weren't given enough time to cook your product when you got a decade and hundreds of millions of dollars and you were working on one of the most iconic franchises in recent gaming memory, and that is what is happening now. A former Dragon Age writer is saying that Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, and Baldur's Gate 3 prove what's possible when a game is given time to cook. Now, this is true. Larian had a lot of time and a lot of money, and they had a lot of passionate people that were a part of their team, and they made an amazing game. Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33 had a lot of passionate people that were a part of their team. They had a lot of time, and we have heard that they didn't even have all that much money compared to other major projects in the industry. Rumors that they had about a 50 million budget, which they made a near perfect product with that amount of funds, but apparently Dragon Age, that just didn't get enough time or enough money. It says, though, former Dragon Age lead writer David Gator is not known to be shy about sharing his opinions, and so he did in April, saying that Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33 is kind of to JRPGs what Baldur's Gate 3 was to CRPGs. Not everyone took that statement quite as he meant it, though, and so speaking recently with Games Radar, he clarified that what he meant was simply that both games are kind of love letters to their genre that allow what they've created to translate to a larger audience than what the genre normally hits. The sales for Baldur's Gate 3 were amazing and kind of make a lie out of it. I remember when I was at EA, there was a lot of investigation into how large is the RPG audience, how large is the action audience, and so forth. And they would have an estimate, and they'd say it caps out at, oh, the RPG audience caps out at about 5 million, but that doesn't seem to be true when the game is good. Wow, it's almost like if you put in a lot of time and effort into a product and you make something that's really good, it is going to reach a larger audience. See, this is the problem that a lot of modern companies don't understand, is that yes, you need to create a product that targets an initial audience, but if you go above and beyond, you're going to get a larger audience. It's like Japanese developers want to target a global audience. Well, what made their games special in the first place is that they were Japanese. They had a strong identity. And then it happened to reach other audiences and captured our interests. But when they water down their content for a global audience, it really appeals to nobody. Good is subjective, it says, and it doesn't always add up to success. Plenty of good games are overlooked or fail to meet some arbitrary sales goal for any number of reasons, not least of which is the overwhelming number of good games out there. One obvious example of apparently a game that was overlooked and failed to meet some arbitrary sales goal, even though it was considered good by PC Gamer, was Dragon Age the Veilguard, which was well received by critics and players. Come on, listen, I can deal with a lot of lies in articles like this, but let's stop the cap. But failed to put up sufficient numbers and may well mark the end of the series, at least for now. It's pure cope here, huh? Oh, it's only the end of the series for now. Apparently, one day, guys, Dragon Age might come back. No, if Dragon Age comes back, it will be in a couple of decades when BioWare has been rebooted like 5 times. Okay, there's no way that we are going to get a Dragon Age game anytime soon in any capacity, and this game was not well received by critics and players. Sure, the critics loved it, they shilled for it, they said it was awesome, hell, you're even doing it right now, but players did not love it, and clearly players did not show up to purchase it, so that does matter. Yes, I understand that sometimes companies have these absolutely insane sales goals that they want to reach, but they have to at least get close to them, and Veilguard did not. I mean, we've seen what's happened with BioWare since this game released. And of course, the access media is not going to point out a major issue with Veilguard, something that is not present in games like Expedition 33, and that is a heavy focus on DEI. It's bad writing, and it's diverse writing for the sake of checking off boxes on a checklist. I think diversity, when done naturally, is perfectly fine. It's forced diversity that's the problem, where the developers didn't do it because they thought it would be a good story, or because they thought that, oh, we've put so much time and effort into crafting these really unique and in-depth characters. It's like initially with Veilguard a decade ago, they had a team together, and then as time went on, they kept hiring more and more activists who were going to push this idea, and then you ended up hiring people who, sure, were totally behind the narratives that were being pushed, but they didn't have the skills to back it up. This is what happens when you hire based on somebody's skin color, gender, sexuality, and you're not hiring based on merits. It came out and it was a complete fucking disaster, and it deserved to fail because it was just a terrible game all around. He actually is seemingly talking about the much rarer phenomenon of games that are truly exceptional rather than merely good. I think there's such a thing as expanding the audience, right? As opposed to treating the audience as this finite number of people, right? And I think that's what Expedition 33 really does. I think it manages to take the elements of JRPGs, and I don't think it's doing a lot of new things, honestly. It's taking a number of more recent trends and kind of bundling them up in an interesting way, and I think it makes it very accessible to people who normally wouldn't play JRPGs. I also think that it boils down to the sheer level of talent that these people actually have. They're good at their jobs, they're good at what they want to do, and they put all of their passion into this game, and it turned out to be a sweeping success. And he said the successes of Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, and Baldur's Gate 3 also demonstrates what's possible when a game is given time to cook. Baldur's Gate 3 has an extended and very front-facing early access period, while Clair Obscur's director said in early May that it would have taken years to get the project approved by his former company Ubisoft. But the example of Dragon Age is being used here, which is just so laughable because Dragon Age the Veilguard got a decade worth of time. Sure, it wasn't in full development for a decade, but a decade ago, they internally greenlit it, they hired for it, they started writing scripts and started coming up with designs. They were in that process a decade before it released. They had hundreds of millions of dollars to put into this game. How much more could you want? Sure, after a decade, I can understand a company, walking up to their developer saying, hey, listen, guys, maybe it's time to get a move on. Maybe it's time to get this show on the road. You're not going to get any sympathy out of me for that. Clair Obscur did not take a decade to make. Baldur's Gate 3 didn't take a full decade to make. Dragon Age the Veilguard did, though, and it was the only one that failed out of these three. Maybe you just need to actually hire people who are good at their jobs again. And of course, PC Gamer, this Dragon Age writer, they're all getting roasted by gamers for the sake and no DEI. Well, yeah, of course, the access media doesn't want to bring up the fact that with Dragon Age the Veilguard, they put politics first instead of putting entertainment first. I've been very critical of a game like Baldur's Gate 3. There was a lot of marketing material that I personally did not like about it. I still think that it is a really good game. But when it came down to it, it was a high quality game. It was a well-written game. It was a fun game. It was entertainment. What is so hard for someone like this to understand? The difference in these games is mind-boggling. Development time has nothing to do with it, and you know it. You ignored the wishes of the general public that would have gladly bought your game, but DEI politics was more important to you than making a memorable game. Yeah, I mean, so many of the activists working on this project were more worried about pushing identity politics with things like terms that are modern, such as transgender, non binary, and adding top surgery scar toggles, instead of just going, hey, let's make a really fun experience. Dragon Age had like 20 years to cook. They purposefully homified it to make it appease to the unpopular politics. The golden combination of good and well written stories, memorable music, and engaging gameplay was lost somewhere down the line in favor of condescending the audience with social politics. It's nice to know the course is being corrected. It's about having passionate devs and good leadership. No amount of time would have saved Dragon Age to Veilguard. I don't know about Baldur's Gate, but Expedition dev time was like, what, 5 years against Dragon Age's 9? No, good devs who actually care about their games give players what they want, and those are the success stories. So yes, I'm sure that over the next few days, we're going to see quite a few meltdowns over this article and the backlash to it. I'm sure that maybe even PC Gamer will put out another hit piece on Gamer saying, you guys just intentionally misunderstand what we're saying, and you're always trying to twist our words, and you're so mean to developers, even though these developers aren't going to get sympathy out of me and many people. When you had a decade and hundreds of millions of dollars, and you had name recognition like Dragon Age, and you guys still created slop. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.